we go. Well, good morning. Welcome. Hello, hello. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this fantastic morning. It's so fun seeing all your smiling faces. Amazing. This weather outside is stunning. I am going to start us off. Thank you for joining us today for the Wisconsin Women in Conservation Educator Network Fall Meetup. It's so fun having each of you here. I'm going to start us off with a fun little poll while we have people rolling in. This is just a fun little poll about fall. And so curious to see what everybody's favorite part of fall is. It's kind of bizarre because it doesn't really feel like fall out there right now. But there's so many fun things about fall. And when I set up the poll, I realized I set it up for like a single choice. So you couldn't click like 5 of them. And I wondered if I should make it a different way. But so many fun things happening. Meanwhile, once you get your poll question answered, I would love to have you introduce yourself in the chat. Maybe put your name, the organization that you're from, or where you're from and the organization you're with, so that we can kind of see some of the amazing things that you're doing out there. That helps us get to see who's all engaged and involved. I love it. I'm seeing a lot of leaves turning colors and apples, and I'll share it with you in just a moment as we are having more and more people join us. It's so much fun seeing all of the responses. And not one snow day. Nobody is clicking snow day. Should that surprise anybody? Amazing. Super. If you're just joining us now, please be sure to introduce yourself in the chat. Your name, where you're from, the organization that you're with, and maybe something about the good work that you're doing. So much fun. See all the responses. 22 of you said leaves turning colors is your favorite part of fall. Me, I'm an apple person. I love those apples. It's fall time. Also baking. That's always fun. Amazing. Thanks for joining us. So we are going to have some breakout rooms to get us, actually, first of all, sorry about that. First of all, I would love to thank you all for joining us today. It is our fall Wisconsin Women in Conservation Educator Network Meetup, where we are encouraging all of our educators to kind of come together, get to know each other, learn some of the things that are happening all across Wisconsin, and see ways that we can start collaborating and working together in a fun way. I'm going to start us off with a PowerPoint that's going to share a little bit about Wisconsin Women in Conservation. And so let's go here. That can show you, view right there. Some of the amazing things that we're doing. So Wisconsin Women in Conservation has been around since 2020. We are working together. So it's Wisconsin Farmers Union. There's 5 organizations all working together. Wisconsin's Farmers Union, Renewing the Countryside, Michael Fields Agricultural Institute, and Marble Seed is working in conjunction with eResources and the United States Department of Agriculture, the NRCS. And we've all come together to work with women landowners throughout the state of Wisconsin. I am thrilled to say that we have these 5 incredible regional coordinators throughout the state of Wisconsin, and they are all on the call today. So we have Noemi and Alana, we have Mercedes, Allison, and Elena, who are all working throughout the state, and hopefully you get a chance to meet them throughout the day today and through the rest of the year as we host other events. As Wisconsin Women in Conservation, one of the things that we're doing is working with women landowners throughout Wisconsin by hosting learning circles, spring learning circles, and fall learning circles, and also field days. We're providing safe spaces for our women landowners to connect and network within their community. It is so much fun listening to each of these women share their stories and their experiences that they're having when they're navigating conservation practices on their land. As you all are fully aware, conservation isn't something that happens instantaneously. It's something that you have to nurture and continue to make happen. So we are doing that throughout the state in learning circles and making a lot of amazing things happen. Our goal is to get conservation plans out there to help guide these women landowners as they're building these resources in their communities. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. And if you haven't joined one of our events, we'd love to encourage you to do so. We began in 2020, October of 2020, with all of these 6 different clusters throughout Wisconsin. And look at the numbers, you guys. It's been pretty incredible. Over 2,900 women had actively engaged in our events and our newsletters. Our goals, we have blown out of the water. We have already gotten 80 conservation plans completed, 20 Zoom events, 28 learning circles, field days, and educator events. It's just been an amazing opportunity. And I hope that you've had a chance to join us, but if you haven't, please do so. We are thrilled to announce that we are going into the 2024 season, we have 2 more additional years of funding here. And so we're adding some new clusters to our state. So the darker clusters that you see here, you see the light green, for example, for Polk, Barron, and Dunn, but now that's for marble seed. They are adding the darker green colors. So Chippewa, Eau Claire, and Clark. This is happening for each of our organizations. We're adding different clusters. So reach out to our coordinators and get to know these happening. In our new clusters, we're still going to be doing exactly like we were doing in the past. So we're going to be doing the learning circles in the spring and in the fall. We're also going to be hosting those field days. But then when it comes to our previous regions that we're doing, we're looking at doing potlucks and networking throughout the previous. So I'll take my previous region. I was the West Central Regional Coordinator for Pierce, Pepin, and Buffalo counties. And instead of doing spring and fall learning circles and a field day, we're going to be hosting potlucks and networking with women landowners. And that can be taking place. In addition, we're also going to be doing some bus tours so that we can encourage our landowners to make connections and see conservation in action. So we would love to see you joining, promoting, and being a part of these. Our conservation coaches that we have throughout our region are going to be transforming now into networking coaches. So the previous regions like Pierce, Pepin, and Buffalo, as an example, those are going to be networking coaches that are going to be making connections in those regions, and we're really excited. I would like to now encourage you, if you have not joined our listserv, to send us an email at info@wiwic.org so that you have the opportunity to stay in touch, stay connected to the different things that are taking place. I also want to mention that we have a link that's going to be added to the chat right now. In that link, it's going to be a sign up for you to be able to see some of the different sign up for our it is a what do they call this one? where everybody can sign in as a conservation educator so that we can keep an eye and anything that's happening throughout our community, then we can have you join us for those. All right, up next, one of the things that we want to do is allow you to have an opportunity to head into a breakout. Ideally, we're going to be breaking this into 3 of you per. So if we have 50, we're going to have breakout rooms. In your breakout room, if you can list your name, if you can connect with somebody new, and share your name, where you're from, your organization, and the area of educator work focus. Like, how did you get started, or how did you know you wanted to become a conservation educator? So we are going to send this into, let's see, I'm going to put in, yeah, how about breakout rooms? It's automatically going to create these and invite you to a breakout room. So let's get you guys off and introducing yourselves. Our icebreaker again is going to be your name, your location, the organization you're with, kind of where your focus is.
Progress.
You can put in there how you got started as a conservation educator. That would be fantastic. Thank you. There we go. And if anybody needs help going into their breakout room, let us know and we're happy to give you a hand. Oh, and Heather and Erin, because you are co-host, it's not going to assign you a room, but you can choose to join any one of the rooms by clicking breakout on the bottom. I know we mentioned that you could probably do that. Are you able to see the breakout rooms on the bottom? Great. Then you can choose one of them that has, 2 or 3 that you can join in on. Oh, I love it. Looks like they're going in there.
Sarah,
yes.
Do you have anyone staying in the main room?
I'm going to stay in the main room. And I want to help. I want to see if I can move anybody else to a different room.
I think I'll join room 5 because that's the smallest.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks. Oh, good. You see my Reddit in there. You go say hi to Reddit.
When are we back again?
This is going to be at 10:30. So we have about 16 minutes.
That's a lot. Okay.
It is. Trying to get to know each other and have some conversation about how they got started and how they got into conservation education.
I'm like, they broke off from the National District or Conservation District in the 80s. Anyways, there's a new program called Farmers for Soil Health, which offers cost share for cover crop plantings for farmers in actually 20 different states. And I'm the Wisconsin representative. So enrolling farmers, things like that. And then also, since I'm a one-woman show in Wisconsin, I also am kind of using the position just to get to know folks, and I have a lot of flexibility to like support other programs and collaborate and things like that. So it's been good so far.
Nice.
Katie, I'm sorry I was late, but where did you say you're based?
In Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I think I got to meet you at the Twin Bluffs book launch?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You sound familiar. Okay, great.
Yeah, we actually, and I had met Retta at an Educator Meet-Up last year. So all familiar faces, which is
nice.
Kind of exciting.
Yeah, I can't believe we have like such a generous amount of time in this breakout room, but that's good for us to be able to connect. Retta, I don't think we've met before, but Sarah says hi. She saw I was joining this room. So I work alongside Sarah for Renewing the Countryside. So we have both been with the program from the beginning, which has been fun to see as it has matured and exploded, kind of. But so I'm the Southwest Region Coordinator. So I'm in Dane County, but my region is Viroqua, Vernon, Crawford, and Grant, which are those bottom 3 counties on the west edge. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the program changes. And right now, all I can think about is a map because someone asked about that in the chat, and yeah, Stacia did. And that would be, I think, really fun to see the map of all of the educators in the Educator Network.
Yeah. I've done a shared, this is that with one of the classes I had all the students, you can take a Google map and send somebody a link, and it's a shared Google map, and just have everybody drop their PIN and their name, and then it's kind of like a living Google map to do quickly. But I'm sure if you guys did one, like a really nice polished one would be so cool.
I
Yeah.
love the idea of people adding themselves because then they're adding the amount of information that they want.
They're comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah. I manage a few different maps, and that's always that sticky element, like, do we have permission to share this much? How much can we share? And then also keeping it updated is important. But
yeah, it'd be cool if it was interactive and you could almost like business card kind of pull up.
Yeah. I've not used it in the way that people add their own pins, so I'm interested in investigating that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how we did it. But yeah, you can just do it with a Google map, which is kind of cool. And then I think you just have a private link to that map that you can share with folks. Cool, but yeah, I know. I like that idea of having a map of everybody. I think WiWiC offers such good introduction, like when networking and things like that, and knowing, somebody you want to talk to or connect with, and knowing that they have interacted with WiWiC, like offers such a bridge that I'm very thankful for. Being the only person in Wisconsin on my team, I think I cannot emphasize enough how important this group is to the rest of my team. They haven't really experienced it, don't really understand what it's about. But yeah, it's really nice to have that kind of bridge to connect with folks.
Where is the rest of your team located?
We're kind of scattered. So the team headquarters are in Indiana. I have actually never made it to the headquarters. We have 3 staff members there. I have 2 counterparts, one in Minnesota and one in South Dakota, who are representing their states. And then our executive director is in Iowa. And then we have 2 fellows, one in Ashland, Oregon, and one in Seattle.
Fantastic. And I don't think I got the org name.
It's called CTIC, Conservation Technology Information Center. I will send you the link. It is a very, I was gonna try to put it in the chat, but not to everybody because that would be out of context.
I can look it up.
There you go. I think I figured out how to direct message. But yeah, it's a smaller nonprofit that's been around since the 80s. And they wrote for this Farmer for Soils Health grant and got South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin in the grant.
Cool. Were you at the conference in Stevens Point?
Yes, yeah, I was. I was with the Otto Leopold Foundation at that time, working with Alana.
Okay, got it. Awesome. Nice.
Have you guys done any fun fall activities recently, or have you been getting outside? And it's been so warm in Wisconsin this week.
Yeah, I have an outside task that I need to do today. Hopefully, if the weather is still decent by the time my meetings are all done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
I
still
let
light
my,
outside.
sorry, Retta.
Oh, and that it's still light outside.
Right.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah,
hard part.
that is, and it happens so fast. You can see the darkness falling and then suddenly boom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I this time last year, especially working from home, I started to like restructure my days, which really helped. Like, so around 2 p.m., I would kick away from my desk, go, take a hike with the dog, get outside, do some things there, and then come, 5 p.m., do the rest of, wrapping up my day. And that really helped. Especially because I'd like really lean into it and get like really cozy at 5 o'clock and like kind of do some after hours work, which was really, really fun.
I
Yeah.
totally hear you on that. I've done similar things. I think working from home is really beneficial in many ways. Like sometimes I need to do chores in the morning, and so I, can have a late start at 9 if I need to. And I don't know. I just finished going through a super busy season where I would actually work until 5 or 6, take a break, and then do my cozy evening after hours work, like from 9 to midnight.
Oh my gosh, that is busy.
Yeah,
Is that where you're juggling like renewing the countryside on top of WiWiC stuff?
yeah. We do like this local foods event that's pretty big, and then I also wear a hat for the Artisan Grain Collaborative, which so there's
Okay.
tons of overlap all the time. Grain farming is beneficial in various
Mhm.
ways for conservation, as we all know, with cover
Yeah.
crops and no-till. So
Yeah.
there's definitely overlap there.
Hmm.
Is that part of the grain chain, folks?
Yeah. In
Okay.
fact, we have a lot going on working on launching. We have a video series that we just launched last month to kind of talk about the connections between people in the grain chain. We have this, I don't know if you've ever seen this, our regional
Hi.
grain chain infographic, but to describe what, because not everybody knows that term grain chain, but
Yeah.
it just means all of the stakeholders, all of the people involved. So yeah, that's
That's really cool because like I'm not I'm a home gardener, but I would love to even just, well, maybe not be a grain chain, but be my own grain chain of like I think that would be an interesting process of like the harvesting and processing of the flour to make bread because I'm a huge like personal baker. Like that's my winter cozy is
nice.
I just get into the bread making. So I
I
don't know,
like
watching
that.
that from a big scale to like my little scale is kind of exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have like tabletop mills and mill their own grain. Um, I love baking, but I've never used sourdough. I've only done
Oh,
yeast baking. So that
Me
just seems
too.
like a threshold that I
The
haven't.
fermentation scares me.
yeah. I'm mastering my sourdough. I know Alana has a really good routine. Like she has it, not to be corny, but like baked into her work schedule where it's like part of her day to tend to it. Because the issue I have with sourdough is if you want to bake a loaf on Saturday morning, you need to be thinking about that on Wednesday. And I don't always have the foresight. Um, so I just pulled up the grain chain website. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
You're on the AGC website, graincollaborative.com.
Oh nope, I'm looking at something completely different
There's
then.
an
I was
org. There's an org called the Colorado Grain Chain, so that might
okay.
have been what came up. But our website is graincollaborative.com.
Okay.
I can put that in the chat if you want.
Yeah. I just searched okay, yes, I'm finding it now. The grain chain I found was like apps about the commodities and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, so.
Interesting.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
We
This
have-
seems way more, this is matching up with what you were saying. I was looking at the site and I was like, not really making that connection.
Yeah. There's a learn page that has like a grains 101 and a whole terminology list.
Oh,
So
very
send me
cool.
feedback if you have things that don't make sense on the website.
I will, yeah. I am excited. The Farmers for Soil Health program is just for corn and soy right now, but I think since it's a USDA climate smart commodity grant, they have been pushing with USDA to get grains included in that. So being able to pay if somebody's cover cropping their alfalfa or wheat or anything like that, getting a lot more diverse options in there.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Retta, I tried growing buckwheat this year, but it was not very successful. But I wish you well and let me know if there's anything that I can help with.
Sounds good.
Try that.
Yeah, exciting stuff, thinking spring thoughts a little bit. Like that also gets me through the winter of like planning the garden, thinking
Yep.
about what I want to plant. So good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was nice to chat with you both.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, so nice.
see you
Nice
later.
to talk to you again, Rita.
Yeah, take care.
Okay.
Bye.
You met somebody. Yay. I hope that you had an opportunity to meet somebody new and learn something different about what's taking place throughout Wisconsin when it comes to conservation education. I love taking the time to meet with new people and have that opportunity. This is going to give an opportunity for me to launch our second poll. And on this poll, this one is actually asking how many years you have worked as a conservation educator or in the conservation education. Don't feel like you have to be in education. Maybe you're just looking for a career in education, in conservation at this time. Maybe you've been in this your whole life. It's amazing. And we just kind of are curious to see where our conservation educators are at. Pretty soon here, you're going to be meeting some conservation educators that are going to be sharing their story. And I can't wait because we have a pair of sisters here today. It's so awesome. I'm just really excited for you to have the opportunity to meet with them. So Erin and Heather will be with us here in no time. Okay, good. So we have most of you have had the opportunity to answer. So I want to share with you kind of all over the board. This is exciting. And I'm going to share the results with you so that you have an opportunity to see those that are on the call. We're kind of split right down the middle there between being in conservation for your first year, being in there your whole life, 5 years, and then that 10 plus years, 13 of you, congratulations. Amazing on 10 or more years in conservation. I'm super excited to see that there's also individuals on this call that are interested in conservation as something that they're looking at doing. So thank you for that. Now in the chat, one thing that I'd love to see, if you haven't already introduced yourself in the chat and your name, the organization you're with, you can do that. But also, can you write who your mentor was when it comes to conservation? So who was your mentor? I would like to now take the opportunity to introduce you to Heather Berklund. Heather is going to be our education career share for today. And it's an honor to meet with her and have us share her with you. I'm so excited. She's been connected to Wisconsin's 17 million acres of forest land and industry for over 23 years, working for the Wisconsin DNR in diverse roles as a field forester, a wildland firefighter, doing wildland firefighting and incident management. She's also a supervisor at various levels, and most recently was appointed as the first woman chief state forester in October of 2020. Outside of her work, you can find Heather in the North Woods cheering on her 2 high school kids, hanging out by Lake Superior, engaged in an outdoor activity for all seasons, though winter is her favorite, and then making maple syrup and yearning to have a flourishing garden like her sister Erin. So I'm excited to have you have the opportunity to meet Heather and learn from her. So thank you, Heather. And I'm going to have you just go ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Can everyone see my screen? Yes. Okay, good. And you can hear me okay. Okay. Love the virtual world, but always look for opportunities to meet people in person too. But what an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I just love being surrounded by so many amazing women in conservation and just so many amazing women. And would love to spend time learning about all of your backgrounds. And so thank you for this invitation. I am going to take you through a little bit of my career journey, but also use this as an opportunity to share my passion and educate you a little bit on our forest resource here in Wisconsin. I think forestry, we haven't done a great job of celebrating all of our great achievements on our contributions to a healthy environment. And so, we like to, hide out in the woods and just do our thing, and we're doing great things. But I think now is the time to really be able to share why it's important to conserve and to manage and to continue to protect our forest resources, as well as all the other great conservation measures that we're taking. So thank you for joining me today on this journey. I will try and be succinct. I get a little excited and passionate, and I might ramble on a little bit, but I know we're on a tight kind of time frame, and I want to definitely leave time for my sister's presentation. So, all right. Did it move to the next slide just to make sure? Okay. Great. So a little bit about my journey and background. And as you can see, I weaved in my sister with me, but we are children of the 70s and 80s, stereotypical. Got to wander the streets of a small community in Southwest Wisconsin. And so we were always outside, loved just playing down at the creek. We were exposed to, the hills of the Driftless area, firewood cutting. We did some tree planting, just some fishing, and just loved being outdoors. Our parents moved back to my stepfather's family farm outside of Sauk in Richland County. In Reedsburg area, where they still have 120 acres today, and where we all go to reconvene and just enjoy the beauty of the landscape in the Driftless area. I had no idea growing up that there was even a career in forestry. Didn't even know that could be a profession. I just knew I didn't want a job working in the office. However, now I kind of am, which is a little bit ironic, but so I looked around, and College of Natural Resources in Stevens Point, having lots of different opportunities to work in natural resources. Took some of those basic classes, still didn't know about forestry and what that meant. But all of a sudden it was like, trees are the answer, and trees connect us to so many other healthy things in our environment. So I really just kind of fell in love with the forestry degree and took advantage, did a little bit of short courses in the Yucatan Peninsula, did one on agroforestry and ecotourism, as well as Germany. They were kind of introducing some new techniques for northern hardwood management, and so took advantage as much as I could to get involved at the college level. I'll talk a little bit more about my DNR journey, but then landed jobs with my husband now, who also works for the DNR, in the Northwoods. Even though I love the Southwest Driftless area, I fell in love with the Northwoods, and we've settled here since 2002 in Vilas County. I have 2 children, so I'm also a mother of a freshman and senior in high school. And we do love all things outdoors, from mountain biking to skiing to fishing. And I do try to garden a little bit, but I leave that to my sister, and I'm a little bit jealous of her gardening skills. And I take advantage whenever I'm with her to reap in her benefits. So a little bit about my DNR journey. I was lucky right out of college. The legislator had given the Division of Forestry some positions to work with private landowners. And so they were hiring pretty aggressively early in 2000. And so I landed a job as an integrated field forester. I jumped around a little bit, but then ultimately landed in Iron and Ashland County, so the far north woods. And you can imagine at 23, I was very young. I was working with demographics that was very old, white, male, very remote. So there was quite a few challenges there in just getting accepted, just having people that I was meeting take me seriously. And so it was a big learning experience for me to just be able to listen, build those relationships, and build credibility. But I loved the Northwoods. There's such a rich history there. Some years we spent 9 months on snowshoes, which wasn't always great. But I would say I was probably in my best shape then. I had great coworkers who really were my mentors at that time. I listened, I absorbed their knowledge and history, worked very closely with our industry, fire departments, everything from prescribed burning to setting up timber sales to fire prevention. And so I built my career. I became a team leader for that team that I was coworkers with. So that had some challenges as well. I was very young. I was younger than my staff that I was supervising, but I had built that relationship and respect. And so every opportunity I had, I got involved in several policymaking teams, became the area leader out of Woodruff, which was a 6-county area, and really expanded my supervision at a larger geographic range, as well as really embedded me into the fire world more. And for anyone who doesn't know, wildland fire and that fire profession is very limited in women leaders. And so you're pretty isolated. You are challenged with quite type A personalities that are out there. And so it really did have to dig deep, self-reflect, and build on that confidence. And then as well, reach out, and I found a few coworkers that really became friends, and those confidence that we could reach out and just have somebody to engage with. And then the opportunity door opened. The state forester, previous state forester, Fred Shoba, had created 2 deputy positions. And one was going to be in the Northwoods as responsible for all the field operations. And so I threw my name in the hat. Never expected myself to be in a statewide policy type position. But what I had going for me was a lot of the partnerships and relationships with our forest industry outside of the DNR. And so that respect really helped encourage me in that position. And so that opened my eyes. Fred became a mentor as far as he came from the outside and an external. So having that perspective, not being in a public agency, really helped open my eyes to all the other kind of challenges, policies. And it did open my eyes to some of the systemic culture issues that we're dealing with in public sector, in just our profession to begin with. We have a long history of kind of just recognizing there's challenges and barriers that we have created into reaching the greater public. So Fred retired. We had 2 deputies. It was the middle of COVID, but then the secretary, Preston Cole at the time, then appointed me as the state forester in October of 2020. So I've been in this role 3 years, which ironic. I know you guys all started this organization and your cluster programs at that same time. So what a great journey I've been on. Don't take it for granted. I am such honored to be leading an organization. We have over 420 full-time employees in our division and about 50 to 100 limited term employees. And we have a diverse programs that we offer to help support forestry here in Wisconsin. So really excited to be in my role, and one of my favorite parts of the job is being able to showcase all the great work we do and meet so many wonderful people that are out there and that have that same passion. So why love forest conservation? Why have I stuck with it? Oh my gosh, I think all of us can appreciate the love of trees. I mean, we get so much from our forests and trees, and I think we take it for granted, or we don't always make that connection. I mean, everything from when you wake up in the morning to the clothes you put on to the food and medicine to where you're living and the building materials. Recreation, walking down your street in those shade trees, the toilet paper we use, just our overall, wildlife habitat, rare species protection, water quality, air quality, and just our overall well-being. And so I have grown to really appreciate what the resource we have right in our backyard and all of the great things that trees do give us. So I'm going to pivot a little bit about our history, because our history too also keeps me engaged and going, and it helps shape the future and how we educate people. And I like to remind, before European settlement, we have 11 federally recognized tribes that have been doing forest management, that have been working the land long before we established. But it is really that late 1800s to 1940s is really where people kind of remember, or not even remember, but that's what their image is of the cutover era, where Wisconsin was completely cut over to help build the cities and infrastructure that we have today. So much of the forest resource you're looking at today when you're out hiking or in your backyard is really that first growth after this cutover. We're now getting into some of the second growth. But our forests are actually evolving and getting older. We're growing more than we're cutting. And so because of this era, we have learned a lot. We had people in place that realized we need to have conservation measures. We need to have policies to protect. Our state forests came into play. We had fire protection, and a lot of different programs came out of this turn of the century kind of cutover period. And we have today's forest today. And so because of that, we have a rich, diverse forest that we're going to want to continue to maintain and manage. And it is an evolution. It's a long period of time for a tree to grow, but it is a renewable resource. We need to tend to it just like you tend to your gardens. There are areas that we want to continue to preserve, set aside, let Mother Nature, but so much of what we have, we want to think about how we're going to manage it so that we have a healthy, productive forest for our future generations that can enjoy it just as much as we do today. And why else should we care? It is a huge economic impact to Wisconsin. We are second to agriculture. It's over $24 billion annually the forestry sector and industry brings to Wisconsin. Over 60,000 jobs are directly tied to forestry. Number one employer in 10 counties. We have been the number one paper producing state for over 50 years. And part of forest recreation brings in $5 billion annually. So super important. About half of the state is covered in forests. And who doesn't love our state tree, the sugar maple? So having those niche forest products as well keeps us competitive in the kind of global market. Who owns our forests? I like to ask this question because a lot of people think the state, we own a lot of the land. But if you look at the breakdown and said private landowners, private family, that is the majority. And you include that into kind of some of the private corporations, over 70% of our forest land in Wisconsin is owned by private individuals. And so it is really critical that we have programs in place where we support you all that own land, you all that want to care for land from the private sector. For the state, we have about 1.2 million acres. Our county forest program for the public land side is crucial. They have 2.4 million acres and 30 counties in the state have a county forest program. So they are a huge economic and environmental contributor to forestry here in Wisconsin. Like I said, we've really invested in our private landowner programs because we recognize that they are the future, and we need to make sure that we have programs that'll support the ability to manage the private woodlands. we're seeing a that kind of disconnect. Used to be you lived on your land, you had a farm, and you had the woodlot, and you tended to both, and you knew a lot about what was out there. With the generations and kind of land splitting, that's a huge concern that we have, and that we're looking to make sure that we still have large blocks of land that we can tend to and work together on. And then how do we reach that next generation of forest landowners? And we've also done a really good job of trying to make sure our foresters and our staff really talk to landowners, understand what is their objective. Timber is way low on the list. And I remember when I first started, I'd go right in and say, this is what you should do with your property. These are the silviculture practices. And we realized that that can turn people off. It's really getting to know why you own woodland, why you care about the woods, and then working from there and how we can meet those objectives. Many of the programs, like I said, that began in the early 1900s when forestry, the Division of Forestry was created. We still manage today in our division, and I oversee the policies and the staff that work on these and the partners and the programs that we have to support these. So we're really proud to have a long, rich history of offering these services to the citizens of Wisconsin. There are a lot of challenges out there, though. And I think we can all recognize it from the invasive species to the recreational demands, to the global markets, technology, increase in the wild and urban interface, the aging logging forest industry sector workforce, and just, again, that competing demands on what people want to see in their forests in Wisconsin. So a lot of challenges. Wisconsin's not immune to these challenges. These are all, when I'm talking to other states, we're all facing kind of that same global issues. But I am hopeful because we have a lot of new innovations, a lot of discussions around where is the future of forestry. And I think with the influx of climate and recognizing that forests carbon sequestration plays a huge role in climate in the future has been really a benefit on putting forestry and forest conservation on the map. Just the resiliencies of our forests will be critical. Investing in mass timber, other types of timber industry products that are out there. We're seeing a lot of niche markets with the use of urban wood. And so that's really what's going to keep Wisconsin vital going forward. And partnering outside of our normal partnerships, we do first down for trees with the packers. We do, root with the brewers and things like that. And so it's really important to make those connections with the public, and how important it is to take even the simplest measure as planting a tree and connecting people with that forest resource. One item I wanted to hit on, since we are all women, or most of us here, forestry in general is a declining career path. And so we already have challenges to begin with, that less people are going into forestry. People are still loving natural resource conservation, but it's more of this ecosystem, ecological restoration, more environmental sciences. And so we need to rebrand ourselves in forestry to get people excited about what the career opportunities are. You could see on this graph, the Division of Forestry, we are behind from even the state workforce on women that are in forestry, as well as the ethnic background and diversity. And so we have a lot of work across the nation. Every state is kind of in this kind of challenge. But I would say, Wisconsin has a rich history, legacy of conservation-minded leaders, starting from our first state forester, to Aldo Leopold, to those connecting with school forests. But again, when you look at the track record, it's been a lot of the male image. And so that's what I'm grateful for, to be in this position, to maybe open up a door to the next generation, to the women leaders out there, to feel that they can step up and be active participants in the voice in the future of Wisconsin's forestry. And These are just a few pictures of some of our staff that I am so honored and grateful to be working with. They are amazing, from our forest health staff that are working to identify the next disease and pests that's out there, to our firefighters on the ground, to our females that have to work with the loggers every day, which can be a rough rough crowd, but just so much grit and so much passion from these folks that I'm just loving to see that future generation in our workforce. And so what can you do, and where are there some resources out there for forest conservation? And I'll provide some links after this that you'll have those with you. But we're doing things to try. One of the things we worked with Into the Outdoors, we have a Heroes of the Forest video to introduce young people into what career path can you take in forestry. The LEAF program out of UW Stevens Point is critical for K through 12 education, also offering many forest resources for teachers, instructors, and so they are a great partner in kind of that forestry education and outreach for K through 12. The UWSP Forestry Center has lots of courses that they're offering now on different forest management, landscape conservation. So I would encourage you to look at that. Silvacast is a monthly podcast that talks about forestry silviculture with a fun pair of DNR employees. So that's a fun listen. My Wisconsin Woods, we partner with My Wisconsin Woods and Alda Leopold, and it's been an initiative with private landowner connecting, and you can go onto their site, and it is to connect landowners with a natural resource professional, and we'll do a walkthrough and kind of just work with landowners on what their options are. And so great program. And working with UW Extension, you mentioned Your Women workshops. Also, they are partnering with some other organizations to do more women landowner, forest landowner workshops. Really important. Our governor did give funding for a couple of programs for career pathways. So some of our technical colleges now are offering some apprenticeship programs, as well as a career pathways program to get more high school students connected to forestry sector jobs. There's women chainsaw safety courses now. And then also just a recognition, I know some of you work with NRCS, and in the past, forestry practices haven't always rose to the top for grant funding, but with a lot of the grants now and the recognition for the importance of forest management, there's a lot more grants and funding opportunities out there. So I'm hopeful. There's a lot of great things happening. There's a lot of great knowledge transfer, and I really think this is a stepping stone. I hope that you all learned a little bit more about forestry here in Wisconsin, have a little bit more, passion and appreciation, and you are going to be the advocates that we need in our division and in our sector going forward. And it really starts with even just that simple sharing of what you've learned with your neighbor to getting actively involved. We need it all from all stages and all walks of life. And so I'm hopeful, and I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and engage, and don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. So thank you.
Wow, Heather, your passion just pours out. It is so fun hearing all of the things that you have done and sharing all of those resources. Also sharing some of those struggles so that we can put that on our awareness and ways that we can help. And I appreciate all of that. I don't know if I would have the dedication to do 9 months in snowshoes. So kudos to you on that one. And I just have to ask one quick question. What's your favorite tree?
Oh, people ask me, I know I do love like a hemlock hardwood forest, just because the hemlock has the history, it has the wildlife component to it as well, mixed with it's usually with a sugar maple or a yellow birch, and so.
Ooh, now I'm gonna have to look that one up. That's one I haven't seen. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we're gonna transition over to, guys, this is so special. It's gonna be Heather's sister, We have a sister duo today. So now it's going to be Erin Schneider joining us. Erin's a farmer, an artist, a poet, a researcher. She's a conservation educator. She's a fruit and flower farmer at Hilltop Community Farm in Laval, and she works for North Central SARE. She has so many resources for us. I'm going not off her bio, but off of so many other things because she just has so much that she has to offer for us. And so she's a diversified market farm in Laval, Wisconsin. How do you say it? Is it Laval?
Laval.
Laval, got it. Specializing in organic fruit and flowers alongside with farming. She does writing and community artwork, which reflects her love for people, plants, and dirtscapes in landscapes near and far. So I am going to hand it over to you, Erin, so that you can tell us a little bit about your farm, a little bit about the past, about today, where you want to go with that.
Sure, thank you. So a quick logistics question though. So there's a couple questions in the chat. Are we holding those toward the end? I think they're for my sister, or just for, is that okay? Or do we we'll come back to those?
Let's see if she can answer those in the chat. And then if we have time at the end, we'll have her take those.
Okay.
Great question. Cool. Thank you.
Just wanted to acknowledge that from folks out there. Okay, I will share my screen. If you're like me, I just need a little pause, and if you need to shake it out, being in the Zoom screen or however you need, yeah, it's got to shake it out a little. And I will get started here. Let me do this part. Okay. Sorry, are you seeing that all right? Okay. All right. Here we go.
Perfect.
Well, I echo this heartfelt gratitude to be here with you all. And I also I'm prone to plant tangents. So if I get off track, Sarah, I'm going to lean on you to bring it back, sister. So
I got you. I got you.
Okay. So I was thinking of what to share with you all. I know some folks in the network, it's really nice to meet some new faces and just to see where you all are at and what kind of drew you here. So I'm just going to share a little bit of a slice in a moment of time of my conservation story. I would just say it's humbling and it's an honor. It's kind of like that your inner jellyfish, or I call it my inner jellyfish, just this jet propulsion of curiosity that keeps me going. And so this being here has helped to re-spark that, because winter, or not quite winter, summer, whatever, but the body's tired. I'm ready to be dormant with the trees and the plants. But it's really, my sister's a source of strength, and it's I can't say no. So it's a real joy to be here. So, I think we all wear many hats, even within an existing agency or career path, and there's not really any straight line, right, with conservation. So I wanted to honor that a little bit, and I try to meet people where they're at. So if you have just want to take a pause to reground your thoughts as to what drew you here to this specific day and time, and why you wanted to show up and carve out some space to be part of this Zoom session, just to write it in the chat, what drew you to be here today. So anyway, I'll let you kind of pause and reflect. But also, for selfish reasons, helps me get my bearings. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to share that conservation circumstances for me have changed over time a little bit, and I'll try to find words that sum up this curative journey. I'm going to take you to our farm and kind of stay there. So I'm with my husband and farm partner, Rob McClure, in this photo. We're at Hilltop Community Farm. We're in the far northwest corner of Sauk County, and it was nice to see Sauk County on the map with this network. We're really excited. We're kind of at the edge of the driftless for those that want to reground a little. Former, a lot of oak savanna landscapes. As part of the Ho-Chunk Nation that we are the next in line to steward here, and I feel really grateful for that. So I also try not to embarrass my sister too much. I think I love her to infinity and back. She keeps me propped up. We just have our own language, as I don't know what your relationships are with family or whatnot. But she helps check my restless doubt and cynicism at the door. And I also, she talks about trees, and I think like what, sometimes as women, it's hard, especially Midwestern, you're just like, oh yeah, but I really just want to celebrate one of her amazing gifts of many. She has a real easeful way about, her listening ear, and that people, if you're around her, she just like, you'll just want to open up to you. And then you can see how that is. I mean, 23-year-old can get like crusty or grits up, or like, edgy into like foresters out there to open up to. I think that, anyway. So she sees kind of, I think conservation, the point of what I'm trying to make is not just to embarrass my sister, but to say like conservation is so much also about opening up people's hearts and minds and meeting them where you're at. So every day in this, I just try to remember to love, and some days are easier said than done. So these are just a snapshot of our farm. It's evolved. My husband's done a CSA for 29 years. We retired that a couple years ago. And, so when I came on in 2009, I just sort of got my toehold in. I was helping with the CSA. I really love flowers. So I did wedding and event flowers for about 15 years. They're still my love. And around that same time, we were starting a small scale orchard. So I like to say Rob kind of managed the veg. I had the flower realm. We came together in the orchard. And I think, Alana, this picture is one of the burns that when you were at the time at the Leopold Foundation, that was that epic prairie burn that went into the night, I think. I don't know, but that's another story. So I think fire is a tool, both the inner fire and also our own fire. So okay, well I give too much backstory in my intros, as you probably just noticed. So for me, I wanted to share about what conservation has been for our farm. And at this moment, I would have to say it's 3 nouns: heart, art, and perennials, and 3 verbs: caretake, intervene, and evolve. So how has this played out on our farm? Well, with the curious heart, I fell in love with the farmer, and the rest is history, right? No. So that is kind of it in a nutshell. I spent a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest, and anyway, so came down from the mountains, and here I had no idea that our farm was 6 miles from where we grew up. I also had no idea I was living and working in Madison at the time too, which I still do. We still kind of split our time. And Rob was living like 3 blocks from me, and I'm like, okay, our souls were tracking each other or something. But so you just never know. You never know, and just go where the green lights are, and where the green, keep a green tree in your heart, and a singing bird will follow, right? That the Chinese proverb says. So conservation on our farm. Well, we have been prairie restorationists, educators, tour guides, orchardists, hunters, hosts, foragers, travelers, makers, takers, soil quilters, seed keepers, and tree planters, and sometimes financed by currents, but mostly by our day jobs, gig work, and the occasional poem. And the grit to prove to the world that there's another way to be in it. I don't want to be dismissive of that, but I think it's really hard to just cash flow perennials. And I think it's great that on our CS and there's education programs and the DNR, like there's cost sharing. That's been really instrumental in helping us.
Or it's not obnoxious, so I don't know if that's the kid.
Oh, that's okay. So anyway, for us, a couple tools that have really helped. So perennials, kind of like trees. Well, they are. I mean, some of them are fruit trees. Sorry, but we were like, for us, a tool that's really helped out is food forest. Kind of not necessarily farming in the forest, but farming like the forest. And in the corner on the top there, you can see we have about a 1 acre polyculture of plants. We were like, oh, we're not going to grow apples because they're really hard to grow and manage organically. But then here we are 10 years later or 15 years later, and apples are what's really doing well. We lost a lot of quince. We kind of had to rebuild, and it's sort of playing out how we were hoping to. So I think food forest was also exciting to see as the cost share option with the conservation stewardship program. So if folks are looking at playing with perennial polycultures of mutual support to diversify, whether it's your income or to find a way to fill in some gaps or do some value added products, or to host people out on your event and just to share the perennial love. So that's been a big design tool for us, both on the land management as well as also how do we be in a perennial network of mutual support like this network here today. So I think spoiler, no, okay, I'm gonna stay in. So what I guess I'm kind of geeking out on perennials, and because I can do that all day. But I wanted to also say, for me, like when I kind of started out with the orchard, like, okay, we're going to grow, you know, what we want to grow and impose it on the land. And I think, you know, maybe that's a little like harsh or, you know, but there's some truth to that. And what I kind of think as conservationists, our first things we do is to show up and just pay attention to what grows well and like find that right plant at the right place at the right time. And oftentimes what I've learned is that, oh, well, here's how this place wants to express itself. And these plants are actually the ones I need in the moment. So it's taken a real big shift. I think if I started, I was, you know, just a little, that early adopter spirit. And now I'm kind of learning to slow down and just to be like, oh, how do I encourage this to further an edge? If that makes any sense. And sometimes you just got to plant what outlasts your lifetime. So that was the food forest. You know, may the food forest be with you on your farmland and also in the state. I can geek out there more, but I wanted to address the question that Sarah had asked us about mentors. And if you've had mentors in your life, like they're inspiring, yes, and maybe on the mentors, if you've ever been a mentor to someone or maybe you or something, I think this picture, my sister, of course, is a mentor. I think this picture says it all because she's got this look like, oh my God, here we go again. I got to put up with this, even at a young age. So sometimes I think we're like, okay, here we go again. You want to do all the things right on your land. And here's like, you know, all the interventions you can do, but then it's just sort of like pausing or in it for the long haul. It's circuitous, it's going to change over time. So I also want, you know, I was looking, so anyway, this is what I noticed about mentors and finding photos is like, you know, okay.
Erin, this photo is fantastic. And when we talked before this event, you promised. For those of you that aren't aware, Heather is 17 months older than Erin. So Heather is the older one and Erin is the younger one. I love this photo. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. I was trying to find one where we're like planting trees together because my folk are splitting firewood because we've been kind of like, as my sister shared earlier, you know, conservation has been part of our life in different ways and we're just really grateful for that. But anyway, I was looking at it and I couldn't find any because they were all like these scenic pictures or being out wet, you know, or just like out in landscapes or like canoeing or whatever. There's no people in there. So I was like, huh. Anyway, there's a pattern. So thanks for bearing with that. So other mentors, though, I saw this in the chat too, like family in the theme. My mom, I have to honor and celebrate my mom. She especially has been just really supportive during the flower years and lending a hand and helping out with some of the design work and inheriting a green thumb from her. And I think too, like what's, you know, at some point, what I'm learning it's just that, you know, your life and your path is going to change over time and to allow for times of rest. And that, you know, so long as you know how to plant a tree or, you know, grow your own food or create beauty or listen or meet people where you're at, you will be well fed. And that's kind of what I'm like humbled by now, like, because we've really scaled back on our farm, but we have this, you know, we have these perennial systems in place that will continue to nurture and evolve with us. So my mom reminds me of that, you know, we're like, my sister and I are first generation from college and we're like from very working class kind of background in Wisconsin, farmers. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that. And another mentor, okay, I got to put this one up, you know, woodchucks. I don't know. So conservation for us, I mean, I'm being kind of silly, but not really, because like we've had woodchucks have been with our land ever since we kind of started farming, and if you know, they can be super destructive, and what they have learned, you know, anyway, the woodchuck has taught me how to negotiate, set boundaries, find some peace, and that sometimes in our journeys we have to go underground for a while, and we're creating these corridors of connection because woodchucks can rock our foundations. And sometimes the work we do we just need to go out and find new threads of connection. But I also think there's other things out there and people and beings that are there to assist if we are just willing to negotiate. So anyway, here I am talking about woodchucks. What can I say? But it all comes back to a place I think we're all here because we have a little green space in our hearts and just love to be out in the world and to share our love with nature, which is a part of us, with everyone else that we encounter. So I think a mentor is the land itself. It continues to feed us and energize and build stamina and a source of this creativity. And that, you know, you need to like disturbance over time to keep things going and evolving, right? So a theme I wanted just to like highlight too, like I don't have a circuitous path really, and I'm a little bit like ready for a long, deep snow day from the pole. But I think conservation, if you're connecting with people and just learning what inspires them, including yourselves, is like, for me, it's like, I feel really grateful that it's just been a source of creativity in a lot of different ways, and not necessarily in like, you know, just have another side gig or that entrepreneurial production side, which is, you know, I kind of survived off of gig work and the occasional poem being published. But 3 real things that have come out of that is we've done a soil quilt, done some writing around and with the land, and created a flower dress. Like, so I think like this upwelling of like, when you feel down, like being able to go back and ground truth with a place and with people you're in, that somehow like, you know, things will open up. I know this is like being really generalist and I can talk details, because it's, if you want to make a flower dress, it's like a lot of work. So, but we know all that beauty and land management we're creating, people on the end result, our customers see it and eat it, but they don't necessarily know all the nitty-gritty details that went behind the scenes. So I just wanted to share that source of inspiration. I think I just want to open it up more for questions, but I'm, you know, all this beauty and conservation, land management, creating and striving, I'm kind of left with the question, and I feel like maybe I'd love to hear how you negotiate with this, or, you know, sometimes we have to ask ourselves at what cost, and I'm kind of sitting with that a little bit. I don't know how to answer. Maybe it's just the time of year, but what I've done maybe to a self-destructive space is, you know, you work so hard at tending to those outer landscapes in life. And, you know, sometimes we have to like, you know, at what cost to our health and our finances and our well-being, or our time with our family. And it's just a lot of hard work. But I think like part of why I'm here is that conservation is just it's not a simple transaction. And I don't, you know, just to continue whatever path you find in that, to like not have everything be transactional in your work. And, you know, it's energizing, exhausting, joyful, and full of grief simultaneously. So I'll try not to dwell too much. My sister will remind me of that. And I really just want to leave you with a poem that kind of sums up this thing of my love for perennials and pears and just mentors and people in my life. So if you'll bear with me, I just got a poem to share. It's called How This Farmer Picks a Pear. He sized up the breeze, suggestive of a pleasant climb, and braced for the view. His hand sought you first, and traced each curve with his eyes closed, as his fingertips remembered. The swell of skin that blushed green, then warmed yellow. Would there be grit cells, or no? He paused to consider your ripeness 5 days out, when his hands are left to do the job without you, and took a gamble that he arrived before the worm of chaos would sluice all 400 pounds. And with a gingered grasp of this moment, hand soft yet firmed, he poached you loose and lamplit, and you released your aging pear body to him, once sweet with autumn breezes. So may your aging bodies be just continue to be sweet and full of autumn breeze and keeping each other propped up. Thanks for listening. I don't know if any of that made sense, or wherever you want to go with questions. It's pretty awesome. Really great. Thanks for listening and inviting me to be here with you today. I can talk practical tips too. There were like the Conservation Reserve Program. I forgot to mention that, but that has been a stamina builder baseline for us. We're looking at a prairie that we took land out of corn and soy that we were formerly renting. So that's helped pay property taxes, and, you know, as well as other benefits to our space. So yeah, thanks.
Wow. That is fantastic, Erin. I have so many little notes written down. The writer and the artist in you poured out. And I'm like, you know, some of the little things, fire is a tool, both inner fire and outer fire. I loved that. Go ahead.
Here, my other point too in all that though, it was just like to see yourselves as like conservation is art too. And like you're educators, and what you're doing with landscapes and trying to negotiate conversations is very artful. And I think sometimes we just remember that part of what you do. So don't let someone else be like, oh, art happens out there. No, it's like in here and on the land. So thanks. So.
I have all these little things written down, and I kind of want to ask everybody else, like, did anybody else write anything down? Write it in the chat. Some of the things that you enjoyed hearing Erin chat about. Heart, art, and perennials. I got that one, and your love of sisters with the listening ear. And I chuckle when you say you fell in love with a farmer, and quite honestly, how you're ready for winter. Love it. I did see, and I'm going to see if there are other questions, but if we could get Heather to join us, I know for sure was at least one question in the chat, and that was that Melinda, and if anybody else has questions while we're reading this, please either drop them in the chat or raise your hand. But Melinda asked, she's worked with a woman landowner or with a landowner that was forced to harvest a large forest tract because of their enrollment in managed forest program. The location of the forest tract was in a high priority area in the drift list for forest birds. It was a shame to lose this beautiful mature forest. Are there any movements to amend some of the rules under the managed forest law that will address some of the landowners' priorities, such as biodiversity and beauty?
Yeah, I'll just briefly weigh in. I think there's always nuances to that, specific properties. The program does allow for multi-use and taking into consideration landowner objectives. However, because it is still a tax incentive program, there is a specific management plan that you need to follow in order to continue to maintain enrollment. And so I don't know this particular situation, but my hope is, and what we continue to instill in foresters that are working with landowners in the MFL program, is there are flexibilities into how we're doing silviculture practices on the ground to regenerate the future forest by also offering that balance of some of the landowner objectives, the landscape objectives in the driftless area. I think we can all appreciate the driftless area has some unique beauty, diversity, but also some challenges in just being able to maintain that resource for the future. So I can appreciate that there are some tough kind of decisions and tough things that go into being part of the managed forest law program, but there also still is some flexibilities and benefits.
Thank you. It's good to know some of those things, because I also in my community have landowners that are very interested in, maintaining the trees that they have, and they're thrilled with that. So,
yeah. I know agroforestry does the DNR work with that a little bit too, or NRCS, or I know that might be, I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but it just seems like agriculture and forestry have so many complementary things, and they're not at odds. And I feel like we may know that as women, but sometimes it's hard to not have it be segmented. I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, I definitely think there are more conversations happening into programs and policies that can allow for those to complement each other, but with that kind of long-term systemic, the culture of policies that are in place, and just being able to, but I do know that we're having more conversations, NRCS as well, in kind of complementing that ag and woodland intersect. And it's going to be critical to going forward.
Awesome. Does anybody else have questions for Erin or for Heather, or comments on some of the things that were shared with us today? Our sisters, I love having them. And honestly, we discussed this, if we should ask questions about the whole sister thing. So Erin, bringing in that photo, did she tell you, Heather?
No, but I love her.
It was a good photo. That was a good one.
Are people struggling on the, I it's kind of more for folks and they feel free to put it in the chat too, but it also makes me think about like, you know, some of our zoning or like where are ways like, because we have in agriculture, I know there's a big land, you know, landowner transition and different ways people are trying to figure out how to do shared management on land. Like, I don't know, in part of your work at WiWiC and conservation planning, do you touch on that as well? Or are there kind of ways that like, is there a small woodlands kind of programming that is available too, or curious? Anyone out there, feel free to put in the chat. That was kind of, I'm not very straightforward in my questions. We've been here on Zoom for almost an hour and a half, and I get it.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Sarah. This is Una.
Hey, Una.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to say I love the mentoring, and I'm going to do this because I am from a whole bunch of family farmer people, and I get it because there is a lot to do and it's a lot to navigate. So I just did want to hear a little bit more about balancing the family. I love your tribute to your mom. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to shout out to my cousin Carla, who joined the call today. I'm inviting all my family to just listen in and peek at what we're doing. But can you talk just a little bit more about how the family connection informs the conservation and why you kind of like in your DNA what you do?
You want to take that, start that, sister? Or no? Okay. Well, let's see. Probably like, you know, just really grateful for being, you know, we just growing up and having access. I know we're really like lucky for that as well. But how like family is kind of just for us, I feel really grateful they showed up, you know, like my mom's help, I guess, like I'm trying to think about how to answer this. Because I'm like wanting to like honor like family and that, you know, okay, it's not just like free labor, but that's part of it sometimes too, right? This exchanging that part when wearing the farm business owner hat, but that it's also just like, you know, at the end of the day, they're there to keep you propped up. So there's been a lot of ways my, you know, family is, you know, kind of, my mom in particular has helped out with doing wedding and event installs and with like bouquet making for sure, that, and then, you know, we share in the rewards of that. And then the other part is just with fence building. Like we had a real challenge with getting our orchard established we started with a solar electric fence, but you know, deer are everywhere and that didn't really help. And we kind of took the leap in doing a high tensile, like woven wire fence. And so family was really helpful with kind of some of that install. So I don't know, I guess the other dynamic is with if there's shared management, land management or ownership, or how that relationship plays out, like just having, sometimes you have to just have written agreements that will really help you out there. I could say more. I don't know if that answered your question, or sister, if you want to add to that. Like,
Yeah. Thank you so much. And that whole putting agreements in place 3 or 4 generations later will probably help me a lot. Thanks.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just add like what I've seen is usually there, you know, in any profession or any exposure you have, it is a generational, you've had that exposure from somewhere deep in you that carries with you to the next generation. I mean, farmers in general, you know, you're usually from a farming family or had that exposure somewhere along the way. And so in order for us to kind of branch out and diversify, it's really opening doors and those opportunities to expose somebody else that may not have that same privilege or opportunity to have that engagement. And so don't underestimate that power and that opportunity, even on a small scale, to expose and open the door for someone who may never even have thought about what a farm is or what a tree is, or, you know, what opportunities there are, because it really, planting those seeds really will make the difference for our future workforce and our future, you know, just land managers.
Thanks again.
Oh, thanks for putting up with us. I don't know. Oh, gosh.
You guys are fabulous. In that, I wanted to, before anything ends here, I wanted to put in a plug. We do have a listserv available for anybody who's not signed up for our listserv. You just simply email info@wiwic.org and ask if you can be added to the listserv, and we'll get you added to that listserv. That's going to connect you all throughout the state of Wisconsin with different things that are taking place. But we also are trying to do a big networking push for conservation educators. And so Noemi just dropped in the chat a few moments ago, a Google sheet where we're capturing conservation educators, where we can just like have context where everybody can stay connected. We have it sorted by counties. You can look at it by different areas of work that they're covering, by organizations. Maybe it's by titles. Your LinkedIn, there's all kinds of different ways that we can have you connected in here. And so we sure enjoy this connection, and we hope that you can do that. Perhaps we should now remove the spotlight on me, because Chris loves doing a group photo. And I don't know if you have an opportunity to turn your cameras on so that Chris can capture a group photo if you're comfortable.
I appreciate you turning your cameras on. That's so nice.
Love seeing smiling faces, and would love to have as many of you on screen as possible. So thank you for bearing with us while we do that. Erin,
Hey,
I think
just while we're all turning our cameras on, if I can just mention one thing, signing up for the newsletter on the website is not the same as signing up for the listserv. So you can't assume because you get our emails from our official WiWiC emails, or even your regional emails from your regional coordinators, that you are also on the listserv. You have to opt in. It's one of the things that listservs make you do. You need to opt in. So just make sure if you want to be on the listserv that you also request that. So you do it at info@wiwic.org and just put subscribe in the subject line. All right, I think we're about ready here. So some people don't like it when I don't say smile so that you can be ready. So I'm going to say right now, smile, 1, 2, 3. Thank you all so much.
I forgot two other, like, so no, I'm here as myself and as a farmer, but like I have, you all have probably other day jobs or a lot of other, I don't know what all the different things you do in a typical day, but I do work with the SARE program, and there's 2 open grant program calls, like the Farmer Rancher grants and the partnership program are both now open, and there may be some opportunities if you wanted to like toss in some ideas to partner with farmers or what have you.
Erin, when do those close?
One of them is December 4th. Partnership might be closing soon. Actually, partnership, I think, sorry about that. Partnership program closed, but the Farmer Rancher is still open. Yeah. And Michael Fields has grants advising services too.
So, definitely. It's free, so check it out. Yeah. I'll drop the link in the chat right now.
Cool. In addition, if you guys can all save the date, our next spring educator meetup is going to be taking place on March 7th of 2024 from 10 to 11:30. This one's going to be super exciting. One of the things we're going to be doing is having a panel of individuals that have written plans for Wisconsin women in conservation. So we can hear some of the things that they're learning, boots on the ground as they're visiting landowners throughout the state. Think we're actually going to be bringing in some NRCS staff at the same time, and I may be poking some of you that are on this call. Hint, hint, be ready for that call so that I can get you to join me and present, and it'll be more of a panel style. I think it's going to be fun hearing what some of the landowners' feedbacks are going to be. So save the date, March 7th, sign up for our newsletters and our listservs so that you can get invited to that one. We're really excited about it. And once again, I just want to thank Erin and Heather, our dynamic sister duo, for joining us today. They did an incredibly amazing job, and we so very much appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
you.